The silence stretched for what felt like hours but was probably only seconds. Marcus stood in the center of the arena, energy blades still humming in his hand, while the last surviving hunter cowered against the wall. The two dead hunters lay in spreading pools of black ichor, their legendary reputation bleeding out into the sand along with their lives. "Counselor," the X-Rin's voice finally broke the silence. Transmitted through the arena's speakers, "Human Marcus Chun, you have survived the trial period. However, the final hunter still lives. Do you claim victory, or do you finish what you started?" Marcus looked up at the command booth, then at the terrified creature pressing itself against the arena wall. The hunter's armor was cracked, its movements sluggish from blood loss and exhaustion. It would be easy to kill, probably merciful at this point. Instead, Marcus deactivated the energy blade. The weapon's hum died away, leaving only the sound of the crowd's nervous breathing. Marcus walked over to where the hunter had dropped its weapons and picked up one of the energy blades. He activated it, testing its weight and balance, then walked back toward the cowering creature. The crowd tensed. Expecting the final blow, Marcus threw the activated blade into the sand at the hunter's feet. "Pick it up," he said in Basic, his words carrying clearly through the arena's acoustics. "Pick it up and try again." The hunter stared at the weapon, then at Marcus, then back at the weapon. Its natural armor was torn and bloodied, its breathing labored, but it was still alive. Still capable of fighting if it chose to. It chose not to. The creature shook its head in a very human gesture of refusal and pushed the blade away with one trembling combat limb. For the first time in recorded galactic history, a Crimson Hunter had surrendered. Marcus nodded and walked back to the center of the arena. He looked up at the command booth and waited. In the VIP section, Ambassador Crawl rose from his seat on unsteady legs. "I invoke the right of species withdrawal. The Andorian Collective formally requests the return of our surviving citizen." Counselor Thexron SI Stock swiveled to focus on the ambassador. "You realize what you're asking? Your people sent these hunters here as our greatest champions. Now you want them back because they lost to a single human? That human is clearly not what the council believed him to be." Crawl's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme distress among his people. "We were told he was a cargo hauler who assaulted peacekeepers. We were not told he was a trained killer. According to our files, he isn't trained." Vexrung consulted a holographic display that materialized near his seat. Marcus Chun, age 34. Born on Luna Colony 7, parents were mining engineers. Education records show basic technical training and piloting certification. No military service, no combat training, no indication of violent tendencies until the incident that brought him here. Then explain what we just witnessed. Vexrun's multiple eyes focused on the human below. Marcus had sat down on one of the fallen rocks, apparently content to wait while the council debated his fate. He didn't look like a trained killer. He looked like exactly what his file said he was. An average human who'd made a living hauling cargo between the stars, but average humans didn't kill apex predators with their bare hands. "Aid," Vexrun said. "Bring up the full report on the incident that led to Marcus Chun's arrest." The aide's fingers danced over controls, and new information flowed across the counselor's display. "Here, sir. 3 months ago, human cargo hauler Marcus Chun was delivering medical supplies to Kepler Station when Council peacekeepers attempted to board his vessel for routine inspection. And Chun refused to allow the boarding, claiming his ship was Earth territory. When peacekeepers forced entry, he resisted." "How many peacekeepers?" The aide's hesitation was telling. 12, sir. Corvin Shock Battalion." Vexrun SI stocks went rigid. Corvin Shock Battalions were elite military units used for hostile boarding actions and planetary assault operations. 12 of them should have been able to subdue any single individual from any known species. Casualties? All 12 peacekeepers required medical treatment. 3 were declared unfit for active duty due to their injuries. The human was eventually subdued when he was struck by neural disruptor fire. How many times? "Sir, how many neural disruptor charges did it take to bring him down?" The aide checked the records again. 7, sir. The peacekeepers reported that Chun continued fighting despite multiple hits that should have incapacitated him immediately. Xren leaned back in his seat. Neural disruptors were designed to override a being's nervous system, causing immediate paralysis. Most species went down after a single hit. The fact that a human had taken 7 and kept fighting was disturbing enough. The fact that he'd done it while defending cargo containers full of medicine made it worse. What was in the medical supplies? Childhood vaccines, sir. Designed to prevent an outbreak of Rigelian fever among the colonial population. So the human was protecting medicine meant for children. Yes. Sir, down in the arena, Marcus Chun sat quietly on his rock and waited. He killed 2 apex predators and spared a third. He'd survived 10 minutes against creatures that had never lost a fight. He'd done it all to protect medicine meant to save children's lives. Counselor, Xron began to understand why the Galactic Council had banned humans from military service. It wasn't just their tactical abilities or their refusal to surrender. It was their sense of right and wrong that made them dangerous. Most species could be negotiated with, bribed, or intimidated. Humans had this inconvenient tendency to fight for principles rather than profit. Sir, the aide said quietly. Incoming communication from Earth Defense Command. Put it through. The holographic display shifted to show Admiral Sarah Martinez, commander of Earth's small but growing space fleet. Her uniform bore the scars of recent combat, and her expression was coldly professional. Counselor Xron, I understand you have one of our citizens in your arena. Admiral Martinez. Yes, Marcus Chun is currently facing judgment for assault on Council peacekeepers. And how is that judgment proceeding? Xron SI stocks indicated the arena floor, where Marcus still sat peacefully among the bodies of the galaxy's most feared predators. It has been ... educational. Admiral Martinez's expression didn't change, but something flickered behind her eyes. I see, Counselor, are you familiar with the history of asymmetric warfare? I am not. It's what happens when a smaller force defeats a larger one through superior tactics, training, or motivation. Earth's military academies study it extensively. We're particularly interested in cases where individual soldiers accomplish mission objectives against overwhelming odds. Admiral, is there a point to this history lesson? The point, Counselor, is that Marcus Chun isn't a cargo hauler who happened to get lucky in a fight. He's a retired Force Reconnaissance Marine who spent 8 years conducting deep penetration operations in hostile territory. The man you've been watching kill your arena champions is a special operations veteran who once held off an entire pirate fleet for 6 hours while defending a refugee convoy. The silence in the command booth was deafening. Hissa. Discharge papers list his occupation as cargo hauler because that's what he chose to do after his military service ended. Admiral Martinez continued, We don't make our veterans advertise their combat records to civilian employers. Bad for morale. Xron's multiple eyes focused on the display showing Marcus Chun. The man sat calmly in the arena, apparently unbothered by the alien debates swirling around him. Now that Xron knew what to look for, he could see the military bearing, the constant awareness, the way Marcus positioned himself to have clear sight lines in all directions even while sitting still. Admiral, why are you telling me this now? Because you're about to make a very important decision about my former Marine's future, and I want you to make it with full information. What sort of information? Admiral Martinez smiled, and Xron was suddenly reminded of Marcus Chun's predator grin in the holding cell. The kind that explains why the Galactic Council banned humans from military service, Counselor. It wasn't because we're unstable. It's because we're too good at it. The transmission ended, leaving Xron alone with his thoughts and the impossible decision before him. In the arena below, Marcus Chun continued to wait with the patience of someone who had spent his career in situations where waiting was the difference between mission success and mission failure. The crowd was growing restless. They'd come to see a human die, and instead they'd watched him systematically dismantle the galaxy's most feared predators. Now they wanted resolution, wanted someone to tell them what it all meant, Dexron activated the arena's communication system. Marcus Chun of Earth. Marcus looked up at the command booth and stood. Yes, your sentence is hereby commuted to time served. You are free to leave Galactic Council space and return to Earth. The crowd erupted in confusion and anger. They'd been promised blood and death, not legal proceedings and political complications. But Dexron ignored them, focusing on the human who had just changed everything. However, he continued, I have a question for you. I'm listening. The medical supplies you were protecting when you fought our peacekeepers, were they really worth 12 men's injuries and your own imprisonment? Marcus looked around the arena at the dead hunters at the cower. The wounded hunter circled wide black ichor still seeping from the gash across its throat. Its companions had spread out again, but their formation was different now. More cautious. They'd learned that this human wasn't helpless prey. Marcus kept the energy blade low, his eyes tracking all three predators simultaneously. The crowd had gone quiet again, sensing that something fundamental had shifted in the arena. These weren't the same hunters who had entered 60 seconds ago, confident and dismissive. These were creatures that had just discovered they could be hurt. The center hunter made the first move, launching itself through the air in a spinning attack that would have bisected most opponents. Marcus dropped to one knee and swept the blade upward, catching the creature across its chest armor. Sparks flew as energy met chitin, and the hunter landed hard, rolling to absorb the impact. Before Marcus could follow up, the second hunter attacked from his blind spot. Claws raked across his back, tearing through his prison uniform and drawing blood. He threw himself forward into a roll, coming up just in time to deflect another swipe that would have taken his head off. The crowd was on its feet now, alien voices rising in excitement and disbelief. The betting pools that operated in the arena's upper levels were in chaos as odds shifted wildly. No one had expected the human to last this long, let alone actually wound the legendary hunters. In the command booth, Counselor Dexron SI stocks were fixed on the human. Aide, pull up the behavioral analysis files on Earth species. Which files, Counselor? All of them. Focus on predator-prey relationships? The aide's fingers danced over holographic controls, bringing up streams of data. Counselor, there are thousands of species documented from Earth. The analysis will take time. Then start with apex predators. Compare their hunting patterns to what we're observing. On the arena floor, Marcus had put his back against one of the rock formations, limiting the hunter's ability to surround him. The wounded one was hanging back now, clearly favoring its injured side. That left two at full strength, and they were learning from each exchange. The hunters began to work together more systematically. One would engage Marcus directly while the others positioned themselves for flanking attacks. It was a coordinated effort that spoke of intelligence and adaptability. These weren't just killing machines. They were strategic thinkers. Marcus parried a thrust from an energy blade and spun away from a claw swipe, but he was being driven back. The hunters were faster than him, stronger, and they had numbers. In a straight fight, he would lose eventually. So he stopped fighting straight. When the next coordinated attack came, Marcus did something unexpected. Instead of retreating or trying to block, he stepped into the attack. He took a glancing blow from claws that left parallel cuts across his ribs, but it put him inside the hunter's reach. His stolen blade punched through the gap between armor plates, sliding between chitin segments like a key finding its lock. The hunter screamed, a sound that mixed pain with fury. It thrashed wildly, trying to dislodge the human who had somehow gotten past its defenses. Marcus held on, riding the creature's bucking movements while working the blade deeper. The other hunters rushed to help their packmate, but Marcus was already moving. He vaulted over the wounded creature and landed in a crouch, putting the thrashing hunter between himself and its companions. For a moment, they couldn't attack without risking their ally. It was only a moment, but Marcus made it count. He grabbed a handful of sand and threw it at the nearest hunter's eyes. The creature recoiled, claws coming up to clear its vision, and Marcus struck. Not with the energy blade, but with his bare hands. The crowd gasped as Marcus's fist connected with what looked like an armored joint. The hunter staggered and Marcus hit it again, targeting the same spot. Armor that could turn energy blades began to crack under repeated impacts from knuckles that had been hardened by years of manual labor. In the command booth, the aide looked up from his data analysis. "Counselor, I'm seeing some disturbing patterns in the Earth Predator files." Explain. "Human persistence hunting tactics? They don't rely on speed or strength like most predators. They use endurance and psychological pressure. They simply don't stop pursuing their prey until it collapses from exhaustion." Vexran's eyes stalks swiveled to focus on the aide. "Are you suggesting the human is hunting the hunters?" "The behavioral patterns match, sir. Look at the arena footage. The human isn't trying to escape or survive. He's systematically wearing down opponents who should be superior to him in every physical metric. On the arena floor, the hunter with the cracked armor was favoring its left side, and the one Marcus had stabbed was moving even more slowly. The third hunter, still bleeding from its throat wound, was showing signs of fatigue. They were apex predators built for short, overwhelming attacks. They weren't designed for extended combat. Marcus, on the other hand, was just getting started. He moved between the rock formations with fluid economy, using the terrain to break up the hunter's coordinated attacks. When they pursued him into narrow spaces, he was waiting with the energy blade. When they tried to surround him in open ground, he had already moved to the next piece of cover. The crowd noise had taken on a different quality. What had started as bloodthirsty excitement was becoming something else. Unease. These alien spectators had come to watch a human die, but they were seeing something that challenged their understanding of the galactic order. Commander Vexstar stood in the security center, watching multiple camera feeds of the arena floor. His scaled fingers drummed against the console as he tracked the human's movements. "Sir," one of his technicians said, "the hunter's vital signs are showing stress indicators. Elevated heart rates, increased respiration, signs of fatigue." "And the human?" The technician checked his instruments twice before answering. "Stable, sir. Heart rate elevated but consistent. No signs of exhaustion or panic." Vexstar's golden eyes narrowed. He'd been a soldier for over 30 years, had fought in border conflicts against a dozen species. He recognized what he was seeing. Even if he didn't want to admit it, the human was a professional killer, not just someone who could kill when necessary, but someone who approached violence with the same methodical precision that others might apply to engineering or medicine. Every movement was calculated, every strike had purpose. Marcus wasn't fighting for his life. He was working. The wounded hunter made a desperate lunge, putting everything it had left into one final attack. Marcus sidestepped and brought the energy blade down in a diagonal cut that severed the creature's spine. It dropped to the sand and lay still, ichor pooling beneath its motionless form. The crowd fell silent. Two hunters remained, both wounded, both showing clear signs of fatigue. They looked at their dead packmate, then at each other, then at the human who stood over the corpse with blood on his hands and murder in his eyes. For the first time in their lives, the Crimson Hunters felt something they'd never experienced before. Fear. It started as a low whine in the throat of the more heavily wounded hunter. Its companion took up the sound, and together they began to back away from Marcus. These apex predators, undefeated champions of the arena, were retreating from a single human. Marcus followed them step by step, his stolen blade held casually at his side. He wasn't rushing now. There was no need. The hunters were broken, their pack mentality shattered by the death of their teammate. They were no longer coordinating their attacks, no longer thinking tactically. They were just afraid. The crowd began to murmur, confusion and disbelief rippling through the stands. This wasn't how things were supposed to go. The hunters were supposed to be unstoppable. They were the arena's greatest attraction. Creatures so deadly that most species' military forces included warnings about Andorian space in their training manuals, but they were running from a human. Marcus continued his steady advance, and the hunters continued to retreat. When one of them backed into the arena wall, it scrambled along the barrier like a cornered animal. When Marcus changed direction to pursue it, the other hunter didn't move to help. The pack was finished. In the VIP section of the arena, Ambassador Krall of the Andorian system watched his people's greatest warriors reduced to cowering animals. His mandibles clicked in distress as he turned to the council representative beside him. This cannot be possible. The hunters are bred for combat. They fear nothing. Councillor Thexran's multiple eyes remained fixed on the arena floor. Apparently, Ambassador, they fear humans. The less wounded hunter made one last attempt at aggression, charging forward with an energy blade in each combat limb. It was a mistake born of desperation rather than tactics. Marcus simply stepped aside and let momentum carry the creature past him. As it turned to attack again, his blade found the gap in its neck armor. The hunter dropped. Ichor spreading across the sand, one remained. It had backed itself into a corner of the arena. Weapons dropped, making sounds that might have been pleas for mercy if they'd come from any other species. Its eyes, which had burned with predatory confidence minutes before, now darted frantically between Marcus and the exits it couldn't reach. Marcus stopped walking and looked up at the command booth. Even at this distance, Councillor Thexran could see the human's expression clearly on the replay screens. It wasn't bloodlust or rage. It was call. The chains around Marcus Chin's wrists felt heavier than they should have. Made from some alien metal that hummed with energy, they were designed to suppress whatever made humans so dangerous in the eyes of the Galactic Council. He sat in the cramped holding cell beneath the Grand Colosseum of Zephyria Prime, listening to the roar of 60,000 alien spectators above. 3 months ago, Marcus had been a simple cargo hauler running supplies between Earth's outer colonies. Now he was the main event in the galaxy's most watched gladiatorial arena. The irony wasn't lost on him that humanity's first real introduction to galactic society would be through bloodsport. The cell door hissed open and Commander Vexstar entered. The reptilian saurian stood nearly 8 feet tall, his scaled hide gleaming under the harsh lights. Golden eyes fixed on Marcus with what might have been respect. Or maybe just professional interest. Human, Vexstar's voice carried the weight of authority that came from commanding the arena's security forces. Today you face the Crimson Hunters. They have never lost a match. Marcus looked up from where he sat on the metal bench. And I'm supposed to be scared? Vexstar's head tilted, a gesture Marcus had learned meant confusion among his species. You should be terrified. The hunters are apex predators from the Andorian system. They have killed everything the arena has thrown at them for 3 years. Beasts from death worlds, mechanical constructs, even a small army of Corvin shock troops, but not humans. No, Vexstar admitted. Not humans. That is why you are here. Marcus stood, the chains clinking softly. He was average height for a human, maybe 6 feet even, with the lean build of someone who'd spent years in variable gravity. Brown hair, brown eyes, nothing special to look at. Certainly nothing that screamed galactic threat to most species. Tell me something, Commander, Marcus said, walking to the energy barrier that served as his cell door. Why are humans banned from serving in galactic military forces? Vexstar's scales shifted color slightly, a sign of discomfort. The Council's decision was based on extensive behavioral analysis. That's not an answer. The Saurian's silence stretched for several seconds. Finally, he spoke. Your species displays concerning psychological profiles under combat conditions. The Council believes humans become unstable when threatened. Marcus smiled, and Vexstar took an unconscious step backward. It was a predator smile, cold and calculating. Unstable is one word for it. The arena medics will be standing by, Vexstar said, clearly wanting to change the subject. Standard combat stimulants are available if you require them. I don't use drugs in a fight. Then you will die quickly. Perhaps that is mercy. Marcus turned away from the barrier, beginning a series of slow stretches. Commander, can I ask you something personal? You may ask. Have you ever been hunting? Vexstar's head cocked again. I do not understand the relevance. On Earth, before we had energy weapons and gravity manipulation, humans hunted with simple tools. Spears, bows, sometimes just sharpened sticks. We weren't the fastest animals, or the strongest, or the most heavily armored, but we were the most persistent. This is history, human, not relevant to your current situation. Marcus stopped stretching and faced the commander directly. A human hunter could track a wounded animal for days, weeks even. Through desert, through forest, across mountains. We didn't give up, ever. That animal could run, it could hide, it could fight. Didn't matter. We just kept coming. The lights in the corridor dimmed slightly, and a low horn sounded throughout the complex. Arena preparation time. 5 minutes until you are called, Vexstar said. The Crimson Hunters will be released into the combat zone 60 seconds after you enter. What do they look like? Bipedal, roughly your size, covered in natural armor plating. 6 limbs, 4 for locomotion, 2 specialized for combat. Retractable claws, venomous bite, exceptional speed and agility. Weapons? They prefer traditional combat. Claws and teeth primarily, though they carry energy blades for armored opponents. Marcus nodded thoughtfully. How many? 3. Just 3? Vexstar's scales shifted color again. The council wanted to ensure you had some chance of providing entertainment before dying. 3 hunters should provide a suitable spectacle without ending things too quickly. The horn sounded again, longer this time. Marcus could hear the crowd above growing louder, their alien voices creating a wall of sound that vibrated through the arena's structure. Human, Vexstar said as Marcus moved toward the cell door. I have watched many beings die in this arena. Warriors from dozens of species, all convinced of their own superiority. The hunters show no mercy, and they feel no fear. Good, Marcus replied. Fear makes things complicated. The energy barrier dissolved, and Marcus stepped into the corridor. 2 Coven guards flanked him, their bulky forms bristling with weapons. They didn't speak as they escorted him through the maze of passages beneath. The arena floor. The holding area just below the combat zone was sparse. Stone walls, a few benches, and a massive gate that led up into the arena proper. Through the gate's bars, Marcus could see sand and the first few rows of the crowd. The noise was incredible now, a roar that seemed to come from everywhere at once. A technician approached, holding some kind of scanning device. Combat assessment, he announced in heavily accented Basic. The device hummed as it passed over Marcus's body. Elevated heart rate, but within normal parameters. Adrenaline levels surprisingly low. Muscle tension minimal. The technician looked puzzled and ran the scan again. Are you ill, human? No, but your physiology suggests you are not prepared for combat. Most beings show significant stress responses at this point. Marcus sat down on one of the benches and closed his eyes. I'm not most beings. The announcer's voice boomed across the arena, speaking in the common trade language. Marcus's translation implant kicked in, rendering the alien words into English. Citizens of the galaxy, today we witness a historic event. For the first time in the Grand Colosseum's 1,000-year history, we present a human. The crowd's roar intensified, and Marcus could hear individual voices now. Boos, cheers, alien sounds that might have been laughter or threats. Hard to tell the difference sometimes. The human species has been deemed too dangerous for military service by the Galactic Council. Today we test that assessment against our reigning champions, the Crimson Hunters of Andoria. More cheering. Marcus kept his eyes closed, focusing on his breathing. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Slow and steady. The human faces execution for the crime of assault against Council peacekeepers. If he can survive the next 10 minutes, his sentence will be reduced to exile. Marcus opened his eyes. That was new information. Vexstar hadn't mentioned the time limit. 10 minutes against 3 apex predators. The council clearly expected this to be over quickly. The gate began to rise with a grinding mechanical sound. Beyond it, Marcus could see the arena floor clearly now. Sand covered most of it, with scattered obstacles providing some cover. Rock formations, metal barriers, even what looked like the wreckage of a small spacecraft. The arena was roughly oval-shaped, maybe 200 meters at its widest point. Human Marcus Chun of Earth. Enter and face your judgment. Marcus stood and walked toward the rising gate. The guards made no move to follow him. They didn't need to. The arena's energy barriers would prevent any escape, and the hunters would ensure he didn't leave alive anyway. The sand was soft under his feet as he emerged into the arena proper. The crowd noise hit him like a physical force, thousands upon thousands of alien voices creating a wall of sound that pressed against his eardrums. He could see them now, filling every seat in the massive structure. Species he recognized and many he didn't, all here to watch him die. Marcus walked to the center of the arena and stopped. The gate behind him had already closed with a final echoing clang. Overhead, the artificial sky showed the pale green of Zephyria Prime's atmosphere. Two small suns hung in the distance, giving everything a strange, doubled shadow. A smaller gate on the opposite side of the arena began to open. The crowd fell into an expectant hush, as if they were holding their collective breath. Marcus could hear the scrape of claws on stone, and then they emerged. The Crimson Hunters were everything Vexstar had described and more. Even at a distance, Marcus could see they were built for killing. Their armor plating looked like natural chitin, dark red with black markings that seemed to shift in the strange light. They moved with fluid grace, their 4 locomotion limbs carrying them across the sand in bounds that covered incredible distances. They fanned out as they entered the arena, taking positions that would let them attack from multiple angles. Smart, coordinated. These weren't just beasts. They were intelligent predators who had learned to work as a team. Marcus began walking toward them. The crowd noise returned in a rush of confusion and excitement. This wasn't what they expected. Humans were supposed to run, to hide, to try desperately to survive until the time limit expired. They weren't supposed to walk calmly toward certain death. The center hunter raised itself on its hind limbs and let out a sound that was part roar, part shriek. It was a challenge, a declaration of dominance that echoed off the arena walls. The crowd loved it. Cheering and stomping in appreciation, Marcus kept walking. The hunters began their approach, moving in coordinated bounds that brought them